Hello and welcome to Dialogue. Macau has just celebrated its 25th anniversary of its return to the motherland. Over the past 2.5 decades, the region has transformed into a vibrant and modern tourist destination under the one country, two systems policy. So just how has Macau changed over the past 25 years? How does Macau view the national development over the years and also going into the future? And how will Macau continue to grow and develop along its own path? During the celebrations in Macau, I talked to scholars and business elites for answers. The first half of our show features an interview with Rostam Neuwirth, distinguished professor, head of the Department of Global Legal Studies of Macau University. And in the second half, we spoke with Carlos Alvarez, Chief Executive Officer at BNU. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qianduo. Welcome to Dialogue, Rostam. We know it marks the 25th anniversary of Macau's return to the Chinese motherland. We know that there are a lot of changes over the past 25 years. You arrived in 2007, not from the very beginning, but obviously you witnessed the changes, the transformation of the city.
Yes.
How do you say about those changes?
Yeah, I've noticed the enormous changes. I notice them every year, actually. Whenever I come back after the summer, there's a new building, a new bridge. But I've experienced it probably the most in the context of my work at the University of Macau, which was before, when I arrived, located on a small hill on Taipa Island, and now it is located on this huge campus on Hengqin Island. And this has brought a major transformation also to our university in terms of student numbers, but also in terms of new programs, new fields. In fact, there are already plans for a second campus on Hengqin Island where new faculties will be opened. And this has also, of course, changed the way the university is run, but also what is the focus in terms of global visibility and to connect with global scientific communities.
Mm-hmm. Macau has carved a niche as a platform between China and Portuguese-speaking countries. How would you say, its legal framework, its understanding of the Portuguese-speaking countries will enhance its role probably to promote trade and a connection, diplomacy between the two sides?
I think that Macau can already draw on centuries of important lessons learned from global trade. It was always part of global trading routes in the region and even far. I saw that many shipping routes went from around Africa to India, Goa, and then reached here and further to Japan or the Philippines. And this has brought a lot of skills also and knowledge about foreign legal systems, which were also absorbed in Macau's legal system. And then it is multilingual. For example, we are quite unique law school in the sense that we offer programs in Chinese language, in Portuguese language, and in English language. And I hope that also contributes to future lawyers, for example, being able to then, of course, carry that knowledge to other countries, especially Lusophone, Portuguese-speaking countries, but other parts in the world. Like, we need nowadays to cooperate on so many important problems. We have to work together in order to tackle them. And here Macau can, based on its past knowledge, also play an important role in the future. That is also our hope in the law school, of course.
Yes. If you look at this current challenge, globally, of course, we have AI, we have blockchain with digital currencies. How prepared is Macau in that sense? Legal point of view, of course, we need regulation, right?
Yeah, that is difficult. I think nobody is prepared anywhere in the world because it's a very new phenomenon. And the combination of a lot of factors together makes it a very complex and difficult challenge. But Macau is, I think, very well placed legally speaking because it is a very mature legal system. Then it is embedded in the broader context of the People's Republic of China. So because nobody can deal with these matters alone. So this is also good. And then ultimately with the multilingual and aspects. I think, and the size, of course, also helps of Macau. I feel always it is a wonderful place to study, for example, a legal system, because you can go to Macau Tower and you overlook the entire region, and you understand how an economy works with the airport, with the bridges, the sea, and then also how the political and the legal system is governing that. And with that understanding, I think it's a good preparation also for understanding the global economy and the global legal system, because it ultimately doesn't function very differently, but it's so difficult to oversee it, and especially with this diverse background, I think it can make a very useful contribution also to a lot of problems at the global level.
Yeah, speak of the global, of course, trade, etc. In particular, I would say, WTO. I mean, that's a place, of course, people look up to if there's a problem. But it has been weakened, as we have to acknowledge that for years. And you have a weakened WTO. Now there's people are concerned with the rise of protectionism, tariffs, etc. How do you look at this situation? Which direction we are moving toward? Is that a weakened WTO or withdrawal of globalization, or maybe it's not that bad?
Yeah, it is always difficult how to look at the glass. Is it half empty, half full? I feel sometimes quite sad when I teach WTO law these days, because it is difficult, of course, to teach it when you know that the dispute settlement system is paralyzed, and there are, between at least some WTO members, no new cases which can help to clarify new challenges from a legal perspective. So in that sense it's a bit sad, but on the other hand I'm not too pessimistic, because there have always been, actually this dynamism is even built into the architecture of the WTO from the beginning, even in the GATT, its predecessor, in a sense that there's a recognition of the regional level and regional cooperation, and the multilateral as a complementary level. And I think there have always been periods where it shifts more towards regional, and once the regional level has in a way exhausted its benefits, then it moves again to the multilateral. We see a lot of new regional trade agreements, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, for example, and at one point when everybody is part of a regional agreement, it will become easier, hopefully, again to strengthen the multilateral system. My main concern is actually that we are facing a few new challenges through, like you mentioned, artificial intelligence and also digital technologies, which transform drastically. They already transformed very much how we do commerce, e-commerce, right, and online shopping. And I think in the future there will be more challenges with 3D printing, for example, that you can download a file from somewhere and then print it in your home, and then there is no more trading goods, for example. So the WTO was built before the internet and this digitization took off, and this is what is currently holding it back, in my view. But this is a challenge we face everywhere, and hopefully when enough local or nationally enough solutions have been found, hopefully in cooperation with each other, regionally first and then globally afterwards, then we will be able to also upgrade the WTO again to a level which can help to solve these problems. But currently, yes, I think there is a need to reform the WTO, but I'm not too pessimistic that an institution like a World Trade Organization will ever run out of business in a way, that because trade is a very universal, it's the lifeline of all of us, and nobody. The theory of comparative advantage always recognized that no place on earth has everything, so we need to exchange things in order to mutually benefit from each other and to build incredible things together.
Right. I mean, of course, we all need WTO, but at the same time, we do see, for example, if there's a dispute between the Chinese side and the EU side, but at the same time, we all know that it needs reform. So currently, why we are not moving forward in terms of reforming or improving WTO so as it can, better regulate our behavior and trade?
Yeah, that is a question that has interested me for a long time already, because already even the United Nations system within which the WTO was initially planned to play a role, as the predecessor, the GATT was actually part of a bigger project to have an international trade organization. And that failed, and then it became the GATT, and then the WTO was established outside the UN system. And since 1945, the UN system has remained also largely the same. And now we are in an unfortunate situation, I think, where a lot of drastic changes have happened at the same time in different fields. And they're all closely related, but we have actually built structures which have artificially separated them, like trade from other public policies, like health or the environment and so on and so forth. So now we need to first, I think, change our perception and the way we look at problems before we can actually reform the institutions in a way which makes them prepared for the future and for existing problems. So I think my hope is that the cognitive change will precede the transformation of these institutions. And if we do not learn how to look at these problems from a different angle, then I'm afraid it will always end in the same historical disasters that we had, which prompted major reforms. The universal international organizations were unfortunately built after World War I and after World War II. Right. And this is what we have to avoid now, that we can change our perception and adapt our perception to the new challenges before we run into even bigger problems than we already face today.
You know, with that said, we do see the emergence of regional agreement, for example, RCEP in the Asia-Pacific region, or CPTPP across the Pacific, and of course NAFTA, you know, US, Mexico, and Canada. How do you see their role? You know, does their emergence somehow undermine, I don't know, or strengthen the global trade?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just part of writing actually a chapter on the Indo-Pacific, part of a research project in collaboration with some colleagues. There it seems the same challenge. In that sense, trade, cooperation and economic integration is quite universal. That whenever you engage in these projects, you have to consider certain dangers, namely to move too fast and to also proliferate them. This has been called the spaghetti bowl, for example, that you have created an enormous fragmentation and complexity based on too many. But on the other hand, I think, like you mentioned, these agreements, they are now filling the gap between that is in a way left by the fragmentation at the global level, at the multilateral level, within the WTO and the UN and so on. So I think what needs to be done is to avoid mistakes from the past and to help not losing sight of the multilateral level at the same time, because as I said, even AI, in my view, is a global concern. And so this cannot be handled alone, and not even regionally. So
it's a common challenge.
But I think in the long run, I think the European Union has shown that it is easier also for non-EU members or for WTO members there, for third countries, to engage with the EU when you're talking to like one trading bloc and not 27 individual member states all the time. So in that sense, when a consensus has been built regionally in the Indo-Pacific, in the Americas, in Europe, in Africa, with the African, for example, continental free trade agreement, it should also facilitate at one point a consensus at the global level. That is my hope. Yeah.
Thank you, Rostam. Thank you for
Thank you very much.